everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lysha and I'm the owner of Lysha Be Creative. Today's video is all about rhinestones, but we are going to be using rhinestones on pens. So I'm going to be creating a few rhinestone pens for you and using 3 different size stones so you guys can kind of see the look of a rhinestone pen you might be looking to attempt to create for yourself. So of course, all the products I use in today's video will be listed and linked down in the description box down below. You'll even find some discount codes for products that I use all the time in my crafting. So before you leave, be sure to give today's video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And let's go ahead and get started on today's rhinestone pen tutorial. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start with our Papermate Inkjoy gel pen. So I get these from Walmart, and you don't have to use these pens. These are just what I ended up picking up. I picked up quite a few packs when they were on sale at my local Walmart. You could also use Maker Flow pens, but I am gonna show you how to work with Inkjoy just because there is more prep work than some of the other pens that are out there. So I'm going to disassemble the pen. I've removed the clip, and then what I did there was just sand down where the clip meets the pen and sand down anything on the pen that is raised so that we have a nice smooth finish, and then clean that down with some rubbing alcohol. Once I've prepped my pen the color that's closest to my stones, I am then going to allow that time for the paint to dry, and then we're going to go ahead and get our first row of rhinestones down. So I am using purple velvet stones from Flint's Sister Supply Shop, and so I have a mix of different size stones in my container here, but I am choosing to pick out the ones that are sized SS10s. So my favorite size stone to use for pens is SS10s. You can use SS12s. They can sometimes look a little bulky. You could use SS6s as well. Those are much smaller, and so it will take you more stones, but you can also use those as well. I find that like the sweet spot for me are the SS10 sized stones. They're just kind of the perfect like amount of just size. You don't feel like you're working on your pen forever and you feel like you can really get your pen sort of accomplished within a day's time. So I'm starting with my first initial row. So just like I would with a cup, I'm starting with that sort of foundation or base line of my rhinestones to make sure I have a good foundation to push my next layers of stones up against. So I've gone around the bottom after applying some liquid fusion around the edge of that pen, and I've placed my stones in a nice straight line. Now taking that pen off the dowel, I'm just going to make sure all of the stones are flat and straight, and then I will set that aside to let that glue time to dry. Once I come back, then I'm able to continue rhinestoning. So I'm going to show you the scatter method as well, but I do typically love the honeycomb pattern on pens. You guys know that when I'm rhinestoning other items, I would prefer to use the scatter method because I feel like it is less time consuming and I don't have to be as perfect. But for pens, I do prefer the look of the honeycomb method. I don't know, there's just something about the honeycomb method like on a pen that just speaks to me differently than it does on a cup, and I just enjoy it a little bit more. So when you're doing the honeycomb, all of your stones are the same size, and what you're doing is you are nestling after that first row, you're nestling all of the next layers of stones right into the crevice of the 2 stones under it. So you're not placing the stones one on top of another, you're looking for the space in between those 2 stones. So that is essentially the honeycomb method, and I've shown this one other time, I believe, on my channel in the pattern we did for a rhinestone cup off of a template. And so it is just that very simple, really methodic, therapeutic method of literally just putting the puzzle pieces together in a nice form and fashion and just making sure that you're leaving room for the next stone. So that is kind of how I'm doing the 2 out of the 3 pens I'm going to show you today. And so I'm just kind of going row by row, putting, a bit of glue on my pen and just continuing up the pen. Once I get to the top is where things get a little bit hairy. Not hairy, but we do have to use less stones because this is sort of where the curve of the top of the pen goes. So this isn't something that you would have happen on a straight-sided pen like a Maker Flow that doesn't have this top-edged curve, but this is something you run into with an Inkjoy gel pen, which is why I wanted to use these. So once you get to the top, I like to rhinestone all the way up to the top. And the reason why is because I feel like it it looks kind of silly when when just that paint is up there exposed. It just looks unfinished to me. So I take the time and using the same size stones, you're not going to use as many stones at the very top of your pen, but placing as many stones and fitting them in between the two stones below it as possible to sort of close out the final row. So I think I fit about 1 or 2 stones less than I did in all the other rows at the top. And so I just made sure those were all evenly spaced so that there wasn't any large gaps in between. So that pen's going to sit and dry. Liquid fusion takes about 24 hours to fully cure. So we're going to set that aside and we are going to get on with the next pen. So the stones I just used were purple velvet stones from Flint Sister Supply Shop. Those are glass stones. I'm now going to show you the same process of the honeycomb method, but with these resin stones. And so the reason why I'm showing you the resin stones and in the same size is because, you know, I prefer personally glass stones. That's just my favorite. But you can also use resin rhinestones. That pack that I showed in the beginning video when I pulled my stones out, that is a pack of rhinestones that I got off of Amazon, and I've literally had it for like 2 or 3 years. I sometimes will rhinestone lids with them, but resin rhinestones are much cheaper to purchase than glass rhinestones. And so if you are looking to get more bang for your buck, if you will, resin rhinestones are sometimes what people will gravitate towards because they can lower the price point of their products, certainly. And they still look beautiful as well. They've got that these ones have those beautiful AB coating over it, so it does give a really beautiful sparkle and shine, and it really doesn't break the bank when it comes to purchasing rhinestones. So now on the flip side with glass rhinestones, like I showed you for the first pen, and I'll show you again for the final pen we're going to do together, is, you know, those are a little bit pricier, right? Glass stones are more expensive because they are more expensive to make. And so those are pens that you could charge more for. So just something to keep in mind when you're choosing to rhinestone pens or rhinestone any items. So sometimes we're thinking about, you know, the cost of supplies, certainly. So taking that into account when we're thinking about how to price our items. So a resin rhinestone pen, I would charge less for versus a glass rhinestone pen. So I'm kind of just showing the same process that I have been for the first pen because we're doing the honeycomb method. And so I did end up switching. I was using liquid fusion for the first pen, and then I switched over and I decided to use Bob Smith's 2-part epoxy, mostly because I was working on another project for a future video at the same time, and it just was in my reach. But I do like using the 30-minute epoxy from Bob Smith for pens because I do feel like I get, I'm able to put more glue on the pen and it doesn't dry so quickly because, again, it's a 30-minute epoxy. So I have more time to work and I don't have to keep applying more glue. I can apply glue almost to the entire pen. And as long as I'm working at a relatively good pace, I really can then get the glue to still be tacky enough for me to apply stones to without it being completely dry before I'm finished with rhinestoning the pen. So just another thing to think about when you're rhinestoning pens and choosing what glue to use as well. I do have a video for that too on my channel. If you're curious as to other types of glue, I did do a test on 3 different glues and kind of showed you all of them. I enjoy all 3 of the glues that I showed, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to leave those in the comment section below. We're on to the third and final pen. So this is the last pen that I wanted to show you. I know this seems like a super quick video when it comes to rhinestoning pens, but I didn't want to focus so much on the rhinestoning process as much as I did want to just focus on the difference between rhinestoning pens versus rhinestoning like tumblers, which is mostly what I focused on. So the final pen, I chose to do a scatter method with mermaid tear rhinestones. So mermaid tear rhinestones, these are clear ones from Flint Sister Supply Shop. They come in a scatter pack, so from size SS3 to like SS30. And it's usually pretty apparent as to which size stones are too large for a pen, but I kind of stayed in the range of like an SS3 to an SS, 12 was the largest I think I put on the pen. The other ones sort of get a little weeble wobbly. They kind of like don't lay as flat on a pen, and so you're going to notice that when you're applying it. But remember, the scatter method is different than honeycomb in that you are applying stones at random and kind of just making your own Tetris piece, if you will, as you apply up the pen. The only thing about a scatter method on a rhinestone pen too is that it's not going to lay completely flat. It is going to feel really bumpy and ridgy and not sort of evenly, you know, placed all the way up the pen. So that's also something to keep in mind when you're choosing between honeycomb or scattered method when it comes to pens. So we've rhinestone all of our pens, we've let them dry, of course, and now we're going to put all of the pieces back together into the pens and get these packaged up as if we're going to ship them or sell them or however we are planning to do with our items. So I'm going to put all the pen pieces back into the pen, and something I didn't show you but I just kind of wanted to talk about is I have little like pen holders that you'll see here that are made out of cardstock. I actually just used a piece of scrapbook paper and I just cut the SVG out of the scrapbook paper. I got the SVG from Creative Fabrica. I did have to cut it down a little bit because the sizing for the center section where the holes are for the pen was perfect, but it was too long for the pretzel holographic bags that I like to use to put my pens in. So I did have to cut them, the top and bottom, a little bit just to make sure that it would fit inside my little holographic bags I use. But I wanted to show you guys sort of the packaging process as well. I always get, you know, questions as to like shipping things and how to package things. And so there's a lot of different ways to ship or package your pens. You certainly could use the holographic bags like I'm using here. You could also use and purchase their like cute velvet bags you can purchase too. Maybe you have a really beautiful designed pen and it's not just single colored and it's all glass stones and you really want it to be, you know, sort of classy. You could put it in a velvet bag. I love the look of those as well. So just a couple of ideas and things when it comes to packaging up your items when you are choosing to sell them or even display them at maybe vendor events and things. So that was kind of it for today's video. I know it wasn't super in-depth, but as always, if you have any questions on anything I did in today's video, be sure to leave some comments down below. I would be more than happy to help anybody on their journey to creating rhinestone pens. These are super fun for me. I usually just make these to add to orders or sell at vendor events. Nothing too crazy. These are just kind of fun, therapeutic things to do. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give this video a huge thumbs up and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye!